morning, good evening, good night, wherever or whoever you may be. I am Alan Arante, and this is the Recluse podcast. Today's guest is Myriam Wane. She is currently pursuing a career in secondary education as an English teacher. She writes poetry, and she's an activist. She recently made the Cincinnati news as the result of her leadership and her role in organizing the student protests that took place recently. It was comprised of 600 people, and if I understood her correctly, it sounded like they had planned it only a day or two before, out of necessity. In this conversation, we talk about her experience as a biracial black woman and the imposter syndrome that can come with that. She mentions the exhaustion that black people are feeling right now. We discuss whether or not she's afraid to be in the front and center of this movement. Without further delay, proudly, I present to you a portrait of Myriam Wane. What has it been like to be the product or the child of a biracial relationship?
Yeah. Great question. I always have had this dream to maybe do some sort of dissertation on that exact question.
Wow. Yes.
When you have a relationship that is taboo and illegal, on top of that, for most of U.S. history, Loving versus Virginia, the Supreme Court case that made banned anti-miscegenation laws. So interracial marriages were allowed, and that was a little over 50 years ago. And when you have two people navigating a relationship that was only barely legal 30 years ago, what other complexities does the relationship inevitably rub off on the children? Because I have friends, and even older friends who, we have similar experiences, similar issues, that we navigate through our entire life. And a lot of it is due to the fact that our parents' relationship was almost unheard of for most of our U.S. history.
Do you feel that there's this concept called imposter syndrome? And I've had this feeling growing up because I'm like I said, I'm a Mexican man. I never learned Spanish. And as a kid, I was really ashamed by that I didn't have, or at least I felt that I didn't have this deep connection to my heritage or culture. Has anybody ever treated you like, oh, you're not black enough or you're not white enough?
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned imposter syndrome. I actually just wrote this poem, and I shared it on social media, and I called it imposter syndrome. And,
wow. Okay.
I've realized recently, a lot of it due to quarantine, that that's been a lot of my life, sort of feeling this imposter syndrome cloud over me. I wasn't black enough. I was too black. I was too foreign, too American, too different, too ambiguous. Yeah.
Wow.
I really feel you. And, I had my best friend from high school. She's Latina. Her mom is Mexican. And my friend always, shared that sort of imposter syndrome she felt from not, speaking Spanish as great as she could. And so, yeah, it's real. It's definitely real.
What's like a figure for the black demographic? How many black people are there in your town and in your town? What's it feel like to you?
Well, in my hometown, the black demographic was so low that one time, our junior year, we actually looked it up on the city's official website, and it made up less than 1%.
Wow.
The whole town.
what has your feeling been? What's the pulse on your town? Are there a lot of sympathizers with the Black Lives Matter movement? Are there counter protests going on?
So it's actually crazy you say that. A few friends and I woke up last Tuesday, and a few of my other student friends and I, we were just like, we're tired, like there's a lot of people, especially from our hometown, a lot of white people asking us how to get involved. And, we were just like, this is exhausting. So we woke up last Tuesday and we said, we're going to just plan a protest here. And we did that in less than 24 hours. And we had about 600 people come out. Is that what it was? Alani, was it 600 people? Yeah. 600 people, a lot of them from our hometown. And I had someone from my hometown, someone I didn't ever get along with in high school because of political reasons. He comes up to me after the protest and I'm like, wow, like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I know you and I don't agree on a lot of things, but this I can get behind. And I'm like, well, we quite frankly agree on nothing, but I appreciate the intention. And it was honestly, I was probably in a state of like, what just happened for the next 24 hours, because growing up, like, we barely had conversations in English class about race without someone getting visibly uncomfortable to where the teachers might have to like redirect the conversation. And to see so many people I haven't even talked to since middle school after our student organized protest last week, it was like, wow, this is change. Like, something is happening. Something unexplainable is happening at every corner of our country right now.
Yes. So you were one of the co-organizers of the protest, the protest that ended up on the news.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, how do you get the word out? I mean, you said it 24 hours later, bam. How do you get the word out for something like that?
So I learned very quickly that organizing is not easy work. Barack Obama wrote hundreds of pages about it in his memoir, Dreams from My Father. Like, organizing is not something that people just like want to do. It was exhausting. But thankfully, a lot, 5 powerhouse women in our group, 2 of them Capricorn women, 3 Capricorn women. We just sat down and we drank coffee for about 7 hours, and we said, your job is to do this, your job is to do this, your job is to tell these people, your job is to tell these people. And we knocked it out. And I think a lot of it came from the diversity in our group. Like I said, there were 3 Black women and another woman of color, and then we had a white woman, and we had a Black man, and I think 3 white men. And I feel like the diversity of it also maybe might have contributed to the word. We were able to reach so many people. It wasn't just white people who came out. It was Black students and other minority students, and it was it was really assuring to see.
What made you and the group you just mentioned? What motivated you to do it? I mean, you said you guys woke up one morning and what? So what was the motivation behind this?
Well, for my friend Anna and I, we talked a lot about how a lot of people from our hometown were sort of asking us questions, paragraphs, like dozens of people, sort of expecting us to like, give them answers, like specifically them. And that's a whole nother conversation on how Black women in America and all over the world, honestly, and other women of color are expected to just take the weight of the world on our shoulders.
Wow. Oh yeah, I mean, I'm wondering. You've said it a couple times, and I've heard it from other people that people come to you for answers. And I mean, how does that make you feel? Is that frustrating? Is that do you feel grateful that people are asking? How does that make you feel to constantly be asked what to do?
It's humbling to know that so many people find trust in your words, you know? Um,
So is there a feeling of frustration or I guess I should say, are there any negative feelings? I've seen some people's take on that where it's like, why are you asking me? Go read a book. Go out there in the streets. Do you have any negative feelings when people approach you and are asking you what to do? Or do you feel that this is how you can actually help the movement by offering answers and suggestions?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, boundaries are really important for anything. Understanding that everyone is just a human being, and you
Mm.
shouldn't call someone in the middle of the night, because you have a question. But at the same time, I'm studying to be a teacher.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I wanna be in the classroom with middle school and high schoolers, and sort of be able to facilitate those conversations with our world's next leaders. And I've learned the hard way that when you're in a situation when you have information and someone else is kind of sort of asking for guidance to get that same information, um,
Mm.
if you personally have the capacity to give the information, do it. And if you personally don't have the capacity, then you don't have to. And there's nothing wrong with that either. I think it's an individual thing, of course. Thankfully, at this point in my life, I feel mentally, okay and capable of handling stuff like that. But maybe a year ago, I wouldn't have been. And um, it's just all about, individual people. And recently we had some unfortunate events occur with protesters and um, Trump supporters sort of having backlash on it. There was violence. It's a very triggering situation all in itself. I actually spoke with someone today who reached out to me on social media. This person asked me if they should um, organize in that same town. And I was like,
Mm.
in the interest of safety, I can't tell you that I think that's a good idea. It's terrifying when it's terrifying. It's great that the momentum is spreading, but it's terrifying to see like how our racism is so rooted in our country that when that momentum starts to spread and you start to feel that backlash, how nasty and scary and
Mm.
horrifying you get. It really makes the situation like real if it wasn't before.
Yeah. So I mean, you're an organizer. You're clearly very vocal on these issues and you're literally out in the street proclaiming them. Are you scared at all? There's a lot of stories about from the past, like where organizers have been victimized, and obviously just the cases of police brutality going on right now. And that, well, it's always been, but in recent cases of Black people being gunned down by police officers, even after this George Floyd situation. Are you scared at all?
Um, well, one of my favorite quotes by any U.S. president is Franklin D. Roosevelt. He says something along the lines of courage is not the absence of fear, but it's the understanding that something else is bigger than that fear.
Mm.
And I think that can best explain how I feel about all of that. I know that speaking out and sort of um, putting myself out there does make me vulnerable to things as such as if I weren't doing that. I think that when you're standing up for something that you believe in with every fiber of your being, it doesn't really matter if I'm afraid or not. I don't have a choice at that point.
Yeah. In 2016, you recently reposted it, but you posted this Black Lives Matter image, and the caption said, "I refuse to be quiet." You had posted that in 2016, and here we are again. What was going on for you in 2016, and what were the state of things when you posted that? You say, "I refuse to be quiet."
Yeah, so 2016, I was 16 years old, and I was about to go into my junior year of high school. And at this time, I was sort of proudly owning my existence as a Black woman, something that I hadn't been able to do for most of my life, just with the sort of family dynamic I was born into. And, at this time, I'm feeling so empowered. I'm learning about my history more and more. I'm 16, and summer comes around, and the video of Philando Castile comes out. The video of Alton Sterling comes out. All of these things, they just, my world is shattered. I'm just living with my dad. It's just my dad and I. A lot of things are happening during this time, and I don't necessarily feel comfortable enough to speak out at this time. But I sort of put on this I don't want to say front, but this armor. And, I watch my dad. My dad is a really big activist for his home country of Mauritania in Cincinnati area. And growing up, I see him sort of advocating for Black lives in Mauritania, because that's a whole nother conversation about the way the government in Mauritania kills and just dehumanizes Black Africans. But, I'm really growing into myself as a woman at this time. And, I'm only 16 and I'm speaking out, and peers are, sort of condemning me for speaking out, and family members. And it's a really isolating time for me. But I think that post was sort of my way as a 16-year-old, girl trying to figure it out. It was a way for me to plant the seed, I refuse to be quiet. There's no reason for me to feel the need to be quiet, because this is what is right.
So fast forward to 2020 today. What has changed since then for you as an individual and for the movement in general? Are we in a worse place, a better place? How do you gauge that difference from back then to now?
Good question. I mean, just a few months after that, my world was kind of shattered. Our entire world was shattered, honestly, when Trump was nominated president. And for a while, a lot of my senior year, I blocked a lot of things out. I tried to tune out. I was accepted to go to Howard University, and then I found out I couldn't go because of money. And I was just really just broken in the world. And I think it's important to note what has changed since then. But it's also even more important to remember what still has to change. Change is slow, and we were set back with the Trump administration.
Yes.
So what's happening right now is really important, because who knows when the next time we're going to get this opportunity. Like, this momentum is huge. And even like policy wise, like there's so much potential right now to actually change, and it won't fix everything, but it'll be the start that we need, and I think we just really need to hang on to this momentum in any way we possibly can.
Yeah, I'm on board with that totally. This momentum it's so strong right now. There are so many peaceful protests and rallies going on. So many people are sharing important information. Petitions are being signed. Dozens and dozens of petitions are being signed just with the click of a button because of social media. I think social media is such a strong aspect of this movement right now. Obviously, the people in the streets and the people doing the heavy lifting, but social media has just been a great tool for organizing and getting the message across. You wrote, I think it was yesterday, you wrote, "This is not a game. This is not a hashtag trend. This is not for clout. This is not for fun. This is not a choice. This is personal." What's behind that?
Yesterday was a little overwhelming for me as a day, as a day in general. I also have my summer job. I work with students, and I'm trying to balance a lot right now as a young adulting as well. I was a little overwhelmed. And reading about what happened with Oluwatoyin Saluan, the young activist who was killed, and turns out she was killed by a member of our own race, a Black man. And as a Black woman, it's just really hard to see that, because in a lot of ways, our existence as Black people and Black women, specifically because of intersectionality, it's been a lot. A lot of my friends can attest to it as well. It's been hard, and we're really realizing how, Black women rely on other Black women, and that's how it's always been, and that's how we, who knows if it's ever, So after seeing that, I was just kind of in overdrive, and very emotional.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. You mentioned the aspect of intersectionality. So Toyin was a young Black woman, and whatever other characteristics she had. I don't know too much about her. Was she, or yeah, what do you know about Toyin? All I know about her is that she was a young Black activist. Do you know anything else about her?
Yeah, I was reading a little bit. I know that I learned that the GoFundMe page that was apparently created by her family, it's allegedly not a good GoFundMe to donate to, because her friends say that she was actually running from her family, I guess, claims of abuse. So watching videos of her speak, I really feel her pain. I feel the pain in her voice. I was watching a few of her videos that were posted, because she was trending for a while on social media before she was killed. And she was a great young woman with powerful, powerful words, just as a person in general who can relate to certain parts of her identity. It just feels familiar.
Wow. Yeah, that's the part that people, and I'm not even saying I understand it, but I think that's one of the biggest things that people just don't notice. For instance, this movement, it's for the empowerment of Black people. It's to bring the status of Black people in this country to an elevated state. And so for instance, white folks, they don't, it doesn't resonate with them sometimes because they don't know what that's like. And like what you're saying with Toyin, you're about the same age as her, right?
I'm 20, yeah, so very similar.
Yeah, the age is similar. You're both women. You're both Black. So when you hear a story about her and you hear the details, you feel it a lot more than someone else, I would imagine. And that's the part that people don't understand. That's why it's so easy to distance themselves from these issues, because how can, a wealthy white man relate to a young Black girl who was sexually assaulted and killed?
Yeah. And I think the thing that feels so different about all of this is even within my own family and close friends and even exes and colleagues have come to me and said, for certain cases, some people have said I was wrong. For a lot of people, they've said, can you teach me more? Because I was biased. And people are really starting to learn. Like, I had a colleague tell me, thank you for being a good friend, to where me as a white privileged male, I have the opportunity to ask the questions I might be scared to ask. But without asking them, I might be perpetrating certain bias that, is hurting, the students that, I'm teaching, my black students, and that's what feels so different about all of this. And that's what's really sort of inspiring, seeing people sort of understand, like finally, like listen.
Kayla A. Greaves, I'm not sure who she is, but I had seen a post of hers recently, and she says, Black women show up for everyone, but who is really out here protecting Black women? Can you relate to that statement she made?
Yes, I can. I was speaking with one of my friends the other day, and she was just telling me, like, Myriam, I'm really proud of you for, like, doing all this, but me personally, like, I'm fed up with Black people, like, and she's Black.
Wow.
And she's like, I'm fed up with Black people right now, and like, and I'm talking to her, and I'm like, yeah, I know, like, but it's important that we just sort of find a common ground right now, and she was just like, I'm really proud of you for doing this, but, like, personally, like, I couldn't do all that, and I wouldn't want to, and I respect it. I really do.
Do you think it's enough for someone to just simply not be racist? It is more required than just simply not being racist.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. My dad and I used to joke when I was younger and I was in high school. He used to call me an extremist because I was just so pro-Black. I was just like, so, like, at one point, maybe a little obnoxious, but I was so, like, proud. And my dad, I would get very angry with people. I was also 16 and, like, full of angst. And I would get so angry with people if they couldn't see my side. And my dad was like, you're an extremist. Like, you can't just, like, force people to see, you got to convince them. You got to get them on track. And I'm 16 at the time. So I'm like, no, like.
And that's coming from an activist.
Yeah. But I've learned that with a little bit of understanding and love, and as long as there's respect present, there's things that we can all be doing better right now. And not to say that the angry activists, and I myself I'm an angry activist, but not to say like the super angry activists are invalid. I think they are just as necessary as more mediator type activists. You know, you look at the differences between Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. And, I would just watch the documentary that Netflix put out of Nina Simone. And Nina Simone, she goes up to Dr. King and she says, Mr. King, I am not for nonviolence. And he says, that's okay, sister. Like, it's okay. And I'm not saying I'm for violence, but I'm just saying, we all have a duty right now, and that's not my job to decide what your duty is. That is your job to figure that out and make it happen, period.
Yeah, this movement, I've really taken to the idea that there are a lot of ways we can assist in this movement. Some people feel ashamed that they can't be out there in the streets. And I've heard people respond to that by saying, well, there are a lot of jobs to do. I mean, we need to get this information out, sign petitions, raise money, donate money. And there's a lot of ways that people can come out without actually having to come out to a physical street. And and I'm happy that everybody, not that old phrase, not one person can't do everything, but everyone can do something. And I find a lot of value in that with this particular movement. I was curious, what do you think about, this is sort of a silly question, but what do you think about the new video that Tekashi 6ix9ine came out with Nicki Minaj? Have you seen it or heard anything about it?
No, I haven't.
I saw some of it, and I won't even say what I think about it, really. I was just curious. I'll just briefly describe it. Basically, Nicki Minaj is like practically naked, shaking her butt, and Tekashi's like rapping and stuff. But they dropped that video like 2 days ago or like a week ago or something like that in the heart of this movement. What do you think about that? Are celebrities, and in particular Black celebrities, obliged to take part in this movement?
So something I've sort of realized with organizing, attempting to, get in contact with other Black student leaders on campus, and the difficulty of it, I believe, comes from the exhaustion that Black people feel right now with just talking about race and living in an existence that is just so surrounded by race. So, me personally, I wouldn't drop a music video in the middle of this, but at the same time, I experience, racism as a Black woman, of course, but maybe to a lesser degree than my cousins who are darker than me, because I am biracial. And, I recognize that maybe during some conversations, I might have a little bit more capacity to start a conversation than some other of my fellow Black sisters. And, it's like I said earlier, it's all about where people are at. And Black people are tired. We're so tired. I don't, like I said, it wouldn't be my personal choice, but, people are trying to deal with this. And that is why allies are so crucial right now, because this is their chance to use their privilege to sort of, I don't want to say overcompensate for how exhausted Black people feel right now, but maybe sort of, we talked about equity, like, white allies have a lot more they need to contribute, like equity wise, to the topic of race and racism.
You had posted or written something about how Black kids are forced to grow up quicker. What do you mean by that?
If you've ever read or heard of the book Between the World and Me, Ta-Nehisi Coates, the structure of the book is he writes a letter to his teenage son about how to be a Black man in America. And it's a short book, but it's absolutely gut-wrenching. My senior year English teacher gave it to me as a sort of like wake-up call, because I was sort of not making the best decisions my senior year of high school, like just sleeping in, and because I was going through my own personal things. And he came up to me one day and he's like, you're one of my students I am going to see on CNN in 20 years. you need to get yourself together. And he gave me this book. And I remember I tuned out of his lesson that day, but he let me sit in the corner and just read the book, because as a real good educator, you realize, your student may not be tuned into your lesson, but they're tuned into something that's ultimately even more important. So let them, and he let me, and he gave me that space to just read. And I was crying in the middle of class. Like, I'm this 18-year-old, like thinking I'm too good for school. And I'm in the middle of like class crying, because this book is it brought to my attention this idea of a stream of consciousness that Black people are aware of, are given at such an early age, at such a young age, because, our existence is a lot different from our white peers as kids, especially for young Black boys. Yeah, go ahead.
I've seen a couple of posts where it's a Black child, usually a little Black boy, with a sign, like it's at a protest or something, and the sign will say, at what age do I stop being cute and start being a threat, or something of that nature? And I was thinking of that when you had posted or written that phrase about how Black kids are forced to grow up quicker, and you mentioned that if a Black child doesn't get with the program soon enough, he could, who knows what could happen out in the world because of how this country in particular treats its Black people.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So do you recall, did your dad or your mom ever have to sit you down when you were younger and sort of give you a glimpse into what into what your future might be in terms of how you're treated out in the world? Or did you gradually just learn any of these details?
Yeah, no, I think I sat my parents down and had the talk with them when I was 16, because I was realizing things. And my dad, he never forced any ideology on me, but he would just educate me on things. And, slowly and surely, I put the pieces together on my own. My dad never gave me an agenda to believe in, or he just gave me facts, and I literally put the pieces together on my own. And when I finally got that puzzle together, I sat my parents down and I read them
Wow.
about how I feel as a Black woman.
What do you think about people right now who are posting just ordinary content or ordinary things on social media, them at the beach or their sandwich or something like that? What's your perspective on that?
In some cases, it honestly feels like a slap in the face, especially when I'm close with these people in some way, or I was at one point in this lifetime. It feels like a slap in the face. It feels like, they're saying, I have the privilege to ignore this, and I'm going to, because it makes me uncomfortable. I see how uncomfortable it's making you and how it's made you, but I don't want to go through that myself. But at the same time, I understand people may have their own pre-existing like mental health issues. I know I personally have my battle with anxiety and sort of managing that. Not everything is black or white. I know that. But in a lot of cases, it does kind of feel like a slap to the face, especially when I know them personally.
Yeah, I'm just sort of confused by it. I don't know what's right or not in this regard. I don't know how people ought to be acting right now. So that's why I try very hard not to judge. But I am confused sometimes when I see some of the stuff that people I know are posting, where it's just there's no acknowledgement of what's going on and everything's just fine and dandy is what the photos seem to be saying. And I think you're right. Even if they don't know that it seems a little microaggressive and it's not intended to be, even if they don't see that, it is at least an illustration of their privilege. That's at the minimum of what is happening, where they have the privilege to ignore it, just like you said. And I'm a little confused by it. So again, I don't know what's right or wrong in that respect, but it at least makes me wonder what the person's thinking about and how much they care.
Right. Yeah, you said that perfectly.
So I just have a few more questions. I'm curious. I'm actually also going to school to be a teacher. You're planning on being a middle school or high school teacher?
Yeah, I'm studying secondary English education.
And what does that mean, actually, secondary English? Oh, that's like high school and middle school English, right?
Yeah, like grades 7 through 12. I can teach.
Wow. What drew you to that? Did you want to be a teacher before you knew you wanted to teach English, or did you always have that passion for English?
No. When I was younger, I used to have like teacher parties with my stuffed animals, school parties, and I had a whiteboard, and I would make my stuffed animals sit at desks, quote unquote, pillows, and I would also force my cat at the time to sit at pillows. She did not like that. And I had my gerbils and their little gerbil balls, and I had my classroom, and I would literally I would write out assignments and duplicate it on every single paper. I would go around and fill out each paper for individual student, and then I would go in and grade each and every single paper, like playing teacher. I would always make my cat fail, like Molly, because she was a mean cat, probably because of me. But I've always been told also I should do law school, and I've always felt strongly about that as well. I didn't know I wanted to study education in college until last summer when I did, when I worked for Breakthrough Cincinnati, and I fell in love with teaching. I fell in love with the process of teaching, and while you're teaching, you're also learning, and it's just constant, you're feeding off of teacher and student, that energy is in constant motion. And I love that. And all I know is for my 20s, I at least want to spend my career in the classroom working with our next generation of leaders.
And what was Breakthrough? What did that project entail?
Breakthrough is just an amazing program that invites students, usually high potential students, into a space at the local university, and they call in college students to come and teach these middle school students. And it's really cool because we're in college. We're not technically adults yet. So we're kind of close in age, but not too close, but close enough to where they refer to us as Miss Myriam. So there's that level of respect, and it's such an amazing experience. I had this classroom full of sixth graders last summer, and I taught French, beginning French. And it was so fun. I actually have pictures from that class on my fridge from my students, and they were just so full of life, sixth graders. They're how do I say this? And they were just so eager to learn. And, when they would get sort of tired, I would stand on desks and teach to keep them engaged and just make a fool out of myself. And I fell in love with absolutely humiliating myself for the greater good of education.
What do you think about when you have your own classroom, if you're teaching high school or middle school? Do you ever daydream about lesson plans that you hope to do someday?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have specific like scenarios in my head, but one of my favorite movies is Freedom Writers, and from my own experiences in high school, certain English teachers who created the space for conversation to happen. I think the mark of a true educator is like not what they say, but like the sort of space they can facilitate for conversation to happen.
Mm.
And I had amazing teachers, have the skill set to create that space for me. And I think my biggest dream as an educator is to be able to create that space for my students.
I have just one more question for you for now. It's so cool that we have the education thing in common. It seems like whatever it is you're going to do in the future, I can imagine just being great, just from talking to you. And I'm sure your teachers saw that in you too. Okay. You can answer this next question any way you like. Who are you?
I am a human who loves other humans and believes in our ability to create a world of love and all of its ever-changing dynamics. It's not about me. It's really important that I humble myself these days, because this isn't about me. This is so much bigger than like I can even comprehend yet. And all I know is I have a part to play, and I got to do it. That's all I know.